Welcome everyone, we are going to get started on creating our first website with HTML. First thing we want to do is to install some sort of text editor or coding editor such as an IDE. Now I personally use Atom. Unfortunately, the company GitHub, which is the creator and owner of Atom, is sunsetting Atom as a text editor or as a IDE. So my recommendation is to either use Notepad if you're on Windows or to download VS Code if you want to really get into programming stuff. If you're dedicated to programming, VS Code is a great IDE. An IDE basically allows you to edit the code and to change things and then to reflect those changes or to see those changes run. VS Code is a powerful tool for developing websites, so I highly recommend it. I personally prefer the simplicity of Atom IDE. So let's get started. Our first task is going to be to create a new file. We're just going to save this with nothing in it. And so we're going to go save as. Now the HTML file, we want to save it with the .html tag. It's pretty simple. So we're going to name this my first.html. You can name this whatever you'd like. This is just what I'm going to name mine. Make sure, however, that you have the .html file extension on there. All right, we're going to go ahead and save that. And of course, give it permission. So now we're going to start with HTML with two tags. The first is going to be a doc type. Oh, and it auto-filled for me. There we go. So we're going to have a doc type as HTML. And then we're going to have our HTML tag. Oops. And we're going to add our closing HTML tag. Now, these in HTML are called tags. So if you see the left and right arrows and then the like what the element is inside of those arrows. So this is going to be the encapsulation of the entire HTML file. So anything inside of this will be rendered as HTML code. Now, with HTML, there are two main sections that we're going to have. The first is just simply called head. And again, we need a closing tag for that. And then the second is going to be our body. So we're going to add body and a closing tag for that as well. Now the head is where your stuff like your site title, your favorite icon, your kind of tags and your metadata, which we'll get into a little bit later in another video, will land. Your body is where all the content of your website will end up. So for now in the head, we're just simply going to add a title to our website. This is going to be my first HTML website, okay? And then as always, we have to close out that tag with a closing, you can see our / a closing tag at the end. And this goes for body, this goes for all of the elements that we create with HTML. They must have a closing tag. So now we're just going to open up a Chrome browser, or you can use Safari or Internet Explorer, whichever you prefer. I personally am a Chrome fan, and so that's what I use. And we're going to go into our Finder where the file is located. I have it right here in the desktop under my HTML folder. And we're just simply going to drag it over to the browser. Now, if you notice, there is no content. It's just a big white screen. And that's okay because we haven't added anything. But if you notice something, our title or the tab is, it says my first HTML website. That's going to be where that's going to be reflected by this title tag. So if we change this to Bob Jr., I don't know why, but that's kind of a default of mine is Bob Jr. for fill-in stuff. Then we're going to go back over to our browser. I'm going to change my window size a little bit. I'm going to do something like this and shrink this down. And we just simply have to refresh it, and we see now the tab title is now Bob Jr. Okay, I'm going to change it back because that's just a silly name. My first HTML website. There we go. So now let's get to the body element. This is where all the content of your website is stored. So things like your headings, your text, such as paragraph text, your div elements, and all of the layout is going to be handled within the body content. So to start with, let's just add a simple heading. So for headings, we have a couple options here. You'll see here there's an H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. What do all those mean? Those are different fonts, font sizes, and styles of headings. This is pretty similar to any Word document. You can choose what style of heading you want. Now we'll get into changing those styles a little bit later, probably I believe in about 2 videos we'll cover that, maybe in the next video. Typically on websites, you want your main title to be an H1 title. In fact, Google's bots crawl websites and look for that H1 tag to determine what the site is about. So we're just going to simply create an H1 tag for now. We'll use the other heading tags a little bit later. And we're going to go ahead and just create a closing tag as well. It's simplest to do it together. And now we're just going to add a heading. This is the first HTML website I've built. It's not the first I've built, but I figured it might be the first one you're building. And so, but again, you can change these titles to whatever you want. Make it fun. And as you see, we're going to progress this HTML website into a full-on application over time. So for now, just put something in the heading tag. We're just going to save it right there, and we're going to refresh. And now you have this big H1 heading. Now, it's not going to look amazing. Obviously, there's not really any styling there, and it looks like a pretty plain newsletter almost. But we're going to fix that a little bit later. So now let's add just a paragraph tag. So we have a P tag for paragraph. And we're going to close that off. And this is where the body of paragraph and text content will lay. Okay, now here's the thing with paragraphs, is we can actually create multiple paragraphs with different things. So for instance, this is going to be paragraph 2, and it'll separate them out into different segments or elements. I have another paragraph for this essay here. We'll just leave it at 3. I'll delete those. I'm running out of creative stuff. So we're going to save this. We're going to come over and refresh. And now you see your body text, your paragraph text here. Now, what else can we do? Well, we can add things like containers to help us organize our content. So for now, let's work on adding a header element to our website. Now, every website has a header. So if we go to my website really quick, it's not a self-promotion, but you'll see there's this header up top, okay? So websites typically have a header or some sort of menu object at the top. We're going to create that. So our first step is going to be adding a div element, okay? And again, we're going to close that off. Now, a div element is like a container that contains elements. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create this container. I want to create, just for the sake of it, a couple more containers. Now, each of these containers is going to hold a button for our menu. So the first container is actually going to be our logo. I'm just gonna put logo here, and we'll add an actual logo to that soon. So my second menu item is going to be a link to another page, which I'm gonna call to-do list. And this is because I'm gonna develop this website into kind of a task list type web application over time. And our third object here is going to be, let's add a features menu button. Now, these alone are not buttons, but what we can do is, again, separate this out. We're going to add a button element. Now, I'm going to warn you, the default button element is pretty trash looking. And so don't feel too bad if yours doesn't look amazing just to start with. Again, we're going to handle a lot of the looks and the styling in another video coming soon. Okay, so now we have our div element. This is going to be our main heading. This is going to be different menu objects, and this is going to be the buttons for our menu. We're going to save that, and we're going to refresh in Chrome, and now we have 3 buttons. We have a logo here, we have a to-do list, and we have a features. Now, currently these don't do anything. In the next video, we'll walk through creating different pages for our website, And then in the video after that, we'll work on making this look decent. So for now, we're going to focus more on the content and the laying out of HTML, and then we'll focus on the rest of it in other videos. So now, what about adding links to our text? Well, say we want to add a hyperlink to this paragraph text. Now we can create a hyperlink for the entire line of text, or we can create just for a word. So I'm actually going to add a paragraph text. I'm going to say this is a link. Now, what we're going to do is inside the paragraph text, we're going to add, actually outside of the paragraph text, we're going to add a tag with an href equals, and we're just going to say google.com because why not? And we're going to create a closing a tag outside of the p element. Now, if we save this and refresh, we will see a blue link. And if we click it, it tries to go to users, goes to the desktop file. Now, to fix that, we simply add https google.com, save, refresh, and now it should go to google.com. Now, what if we want this link to open up in a new tab instead of replacing the current website? We can add a target keyword to our a tag, and we're going to just do an underscore link. So this should open this link in a new blank tab. So we're going to refresh, click on the link, and there we have it. We have a new blank tab that loads google.com, and we have our current HTML website. But what if we just want one of those words to be the link? Well, let's copy, or rather cut, the a text, and we're gonna make link the actual link. And so we're gonna move the a tag right around the link word inside of our paragraph text element. We're gonna save that and refresh it. Now you'll see that we have this is a, and then the link is the only element that's actually clickable, because it is what we have surrounded with the a tag. Now, what if we move the a tag outside of all of this content? Does this work? Let's find out. We'll refresh, and now every bit of text that we've added is clickable to the google.com website. We're going to undo this and put it back to link because I think it works better that way. Oops. There we go, closing a tag, and refresh, and now it's a little bit cleaner. We just have one small link in here. Well, now how about adding images? Let's add our logo to our website, and I have a logo made for this. It's for my to-do app that I'm building out through this series, and so I have a logo. Don't get offended by it. It's just a logo that I've created, but we're going to go ahead and add it here. So where our logo here is, we actually don't want that to be a button. We want that to be our logo image. And so we're going to replace that with an img tag. Now our img tag is going to have a source element. And then there are two options. You can close off this element and then create a closing img tag, or a shortcut for elements that don't need content in between tags can simply have the / inside of the main element. This is just a little shortcut that is the exact same as doing img source equals this. So these two lines are the same thing. This is just a little shortcut, and so we're going to use that. Now for the source, I have an image in the same file that have really long names, and so I'm going to rename one of these as just simply logo.png. And our source here is going to be logo.png. Now we're going to save this and see how it looks. And there it is. Now, why is it so big? Well, because again, CSS is what controls the styling of the website. HTML just simply puts the content on there. Your CSS is what modifies and changes it and cleans it up. So website design work is actually a lot of just simply either working with CSS or working with a bootstrapper like Bootstrap. Go ahead and shape this website to be more directed towards the website that I'm actually building, which is called Task Church, which is why there's an image of a church in the logo. So we're going to rename this title, or we're going to leave the title to to-do list. Actually, we're going to change it to task list. And we're going to change the name to the name of this application, Task Church. Features button is okay. Now the other option for a button is if you want to generate your own custom button, you can do an ahref tag. Oops, equals google.com around a div component. And then instead of a button, we can change this to simply like an H6 element. And save that, refresh it. And now we have this button here for features, or for google.com. So say we want to add pages to our website. Well, all we simply need to do is create a new file. We're going to copy everything from our first page and paste it into our new file. And let's change something. So let's change this to Task Church Features for the title. We're going to keep the menu as the same. We're going to do we're going to get rid of the link for features because they're already on the features page. This is the page we're going to create. And we're going to change the name to this is the features page. We're going to get rid of the rest of the paragraph text. We're going to save this in the same folder as our myfirst.html, and we're going to label this features.html. Save that. And now on our first HTML, my first.html, your home page, we're going to do an ahref to features.html. So this is going to create a link on your home page to features.html. We're going to refresh this and let's click on features. And here we see now we are on the features page. So we've already created 2 pages for this site, and you can create more as you'd wish. You just simply do the same thing. So let's do one more for our task list. So now let's create a second page, or rather a third page for our task list. And we're going to link this button to our task list. So we're going to do a file, new file. We're going to copy our features.html this time. Less changes. We're going to change this to tasks. And then change this. This is where our tasks will be. Now, we want to, on my first HTML page, my home page, copy the ahref. Because remember, we took it off, so when they are on the features page, they can no longer click on features because they're already on that page. But when they are on the to-do page, the task page, we want to bring that HTML link back so they can navigate between pages seamlessly. Okay. And now we're going to get rid of the button for task list because we simply do not need that. And we're going to add an H6 element. Okay. Save that as task.html. Actually, rather tasks. This is our multiple tasks page. Save that and go to myfirst.html. Now we're going to get rid of this button. We don't really need the buttons here. Buttons are more for submitting forms and going places. For this type of thing, I prefer doing an ahref link. Oops, I almost typed ahref link. Okay, and we're going to set ahref equals tasks.html. And remember to close off the a tag. And we're going to save this, refresh. Oops. Oh yes, in our features page, we need to add the ahref tag as well. So we'll just copy and paste it from the home page. And we will close it off. Oops. And save that, and then we will refresh it. Okay, so now we have a link for task list. And we don't have a link for features because we are already on the features page. I see why it looks different. Let's add an H6 element to match the style of the other. Refresh, and there we go. So now we have 2 menu items: task list, which goes to our tasks page, and features, which goes to our features page. Now let's create one more. So when we click on the logo, it takes us back to the home page. So we're going to do an ahref right over top the logo. This is going to take us to our myfirst.html page. Remember, close off the A tag. And we're just simply going to copy that, save it, and paste it on our tasks.html page. Save that, refresh, and now if you see, the cursor has changed when we hover over the image. Changes to our little pointer. So if we click it, it goes to our first home page. If we click on task list, it goes to the task list. If we click on features, it goes to the features page and back to the home page. So now we have navigation working. We have our pages working. And now we can move on to some of the CSS styling to make this look like a real website. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe below, as I'll have more content related to this specific video coming soon. This is going to be part of an entire course that I'm building out, so stay tuned over the next few days for the next video coming out.